being here. I'm Dr. Jolene Church, CEO of DJC Coaching, Consulting, and Training. I'm also the founder of the Women's Leadership Support Network. I am absolutely thrilled to bring you this free leadership training series designed to empower and equip women around the world with the tools, confidence, and strategies to lead with impact. This series was born out of necessity. When the federal government eliminated women's leadership training programs, we knew we couldn't just stand by and let progress be erased. Instead, we took action. We created this space to ensure that leadership development remains accessible, because leadership isn't about privilege, it's about potential. Throughout this 12-part series, we'll cover key leadership topics, everything from overcoming bias and imposter syndrome to mastering executive presence and building a powerful leadership brand. But more than that, we're creating a movement, a network of women supporting women, lifting each other up and ensuring that no one has to rise alone. If you find this training valuable, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel and like this video so more women can discover and benefit from these resources. And if you're interested to bring this training into your organization, all of the training materials are available absolutely free of charge, because leadership development should be accessible to everyone. And at the end of this video, you'll find a QR code to join the Women's Leadership Support Network, a space where you can connect with mentors, ask questions, and find the support you need to keep moving forward. This is more than just leadership training. This is about changing the narrative, breaking barriers, and ensuring that the next generation of women leaders have the tools to thrive. You belong here. You are capable. You are meant to lead. Let's get started now. Welcome to training number 5 in the Women's Leadership Network series. This is Confidence and Overcoming Imposter Syndrome. And whether you're a new manager stepping into leadership for the very first time, a seasoned professional navigating high-stakes environments, or someone who's constantly told you're doing great, yet you feel like you're barely holding it all together, well, this training's for you. Today, we're going to talk about how imposter syndrome does not discriminate. It affects high achievers, perfectionists, caregivers, first-generation professionals, and especially women in leadership. So many of us have walked into rooms, sat at tables, or spoken up in meetings with a voice in our head that's whispering, "You don't really belong here." But here's the truth. That voice is not reality. It's a story, and in this training, we're going to rewrite that story. So by the end of this training, you'll be able to define imposter syndrome and recognize how it uniquely impacts women in leadership. We're going to identify common triggers and patterns of self-doubt, even in high-achieving professionals. We'll apply practical, research-based strategies to build and project authentic confidence. We're going to reframe moments of insecurity into opportunities for leadership growth and self-trust. And then finally, we're going to begin building confidence in our mindset. And that's going to support our leadership presence and our personal brand. As with every training, we start with an opening reflection. I didn't always feel confident. In fact, for most of my early life, I became an expert at blending in. And by the time I graduated high school, I had changed schools 33 times. That meant constantly figuring out what version of myself might be accepted, what might get me noticed for the right reasons, or at least not rejected. I got so good at showing up how I thought people wanted me to show up that I eventually forgot how to show up as myself. So when have you second-guessed your abilities? And how did that moment shape how you showed up as a leader? Think about that for a moment. What exactly is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is not a lack of ability. It's a distortion of perception. It's the internalized belief that your success is due to luck, timing, or fooling others into thinking you're more competent than you are. Despite evidence of your achievements, you feel like a fraud and you fear being found out. Now, the term imposter phenomenon was coined in 1978 by psychologists Pauline Clance and Dr. Suzanne Imes, who observed it amongst high-achieving women who, despite their accomplishments, believed they weren't truly intelligent or capable and how somehow they had deceived others. This experience includes chronic doubt, attributing success to external factors, and the inability to internalize achievements. It's important to note, however, imposter syndrome is not a diagnosable psychological disorder, but its effects are very real. It impacts mental health, career progression, and the ability to lead with authenticity. While imposter syndrome can affect anyone, research shows it disproportionately impacts women, particularly in leadership roles. Why is that? Well, first, there are cultural and societal expectations. Women are often socialized to seek approval, avoid risk, and be modest. Assertiveness in women is sometimes misinterpreted as arrogance, while the same behavior in men is praised as confidence. Then there's perfectionism and over-preparation. Many women feel the need to be twice as good to get half as far. This sets unrealistic internal standards, and anything short of perfection is seen as failure. I actually have a good friend who is a medical doctor, and she suffers from this as she's continually seeking out new certifications and new degrees of specialization. Then there's a lack of representation. In male-dominated industries or leadership tables where few women are present, many women carry the pressure of representation. When you don't see others who look like you or lead like you, it's easier to question whether you belong. And then finally, there's bias and microaggressions. Implicit bias, whether from others or internalized, can undermine confidence. Being interrupted in meetings, overlooked for high visibility projects, or told you're too emotional chips away at self-trust. People who feel like imposters hold themselves to unrealistic, unsustainable standards of competence. In Dr. Valerie Young's research with hundreds of thousands of people from a wide variety of occupations and at all phases of their careers, 5 different types emerged, each with its own unique focus. First, there's the perfectionist. This focuses on how something is done. Even a minor flaw triggers self-doubt. They often micromanage and struggle to delegate. Next, there's the expert. They feel that they must know everything before taking action. They fear being exposed as inexperienced or unqualified, even when they are the authority in the room. And then there's the soloist. They measure success by autonomy. Asking for help feels like failure or admitting inadequacy. Then there's the natural genius. The natural genius believes competence means doing things easily or quickly. If something takes effort, they assume they've failed or they're not good enough. And finally, the superwoman, superman, superhuman. This measures competence by how many roles they can juggle. They push themselves to work harder and longer than everyone else just to prove their worth. So understanding which type you relate to can be an important first step in recognizing how imposter syndrome may be showing up in your leadership journey. Confidence and competence are not the same thing, but in many workplaces, confidence is often mistaken for capability. What is the confidence gap? The confidence gap refers to the documented tendency for women to underestimate their abilities and performance, even when they are just as competent or more so than their male peers. A landmark study published in the Confidence Code by Katie Kay and Kelley Schmidt found that men tend to overestimate their abilities, while women are more likely to underestimate theirs. When applying for promotions, men will apply when they meet 60% of the criteria. Women often wait until they meet 100% of the criteria. Women are more likely to attribute their success to luck or help from others, whereas men tend to credit their own talent or skill. This internal hesitancy isn't a reflection of actual performance, but it's a reflection of how performance is perceived, both by others and by ourselves. Let's look at how this lack of confidence or imposter syndrome shows up in leadership. Even accomplished, high-level women often report holding back ideas in meetings due to fear of sounding stupid, avoiding risks unless they're certain of success, downplaying achievements to avoid being seen as boastful, feeling paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake or not knowing enough. These patterns create a double bind. Show confidence and risk being seen as aggressive or arrogant. Show humility and risk being overlooked or undervalued. It's a no-win zone unless we name the gap, our own value, and redefine what confidence really means. Confidence is often equated with assertiveness, boldness, and decisiveness, all traits that have traditionally been seen as masculine in many organizational cultures. When women exhibit these traits, they may be met with resistance or subtle bias. A man is seen as a strong leader, and a woman is too aggressive. A man takes initiative, and a woman is bossy. A man negotiates, a woman is demanding. This double standard can cause women to tone down their confidence to stay likable, even at the expense of being heard. True confidence isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about being anchored in your value, knowing your worth, trusting your perspective, and showing up without needing to prove yourself. It's not about faking it. It's about owning it. When we stop trying to become someone else's version of a leader, we free ourselves to lead as we are. That's where confidence becomes sustainable, because it's not built on performance, it's built on purpose. Let's have you think about a time when you felt confident in a quiet, grounded way. Not because you had all the answers, but because you knew your value. What helped you access that version of yourself? Take some notes on this. Let's talk about ways that we can shift from self-doubt to self-assurance. And we're going to start by reframing the narrative. Instead of treating self-doubt as a warning sign to back off, we can reframe it as a sign that you're stretching beyond your comfort zone, and evidence that you care about doing well, an invitation to build courage and not wait for certainty. Dr. Amy Cuddy, known for her research on presence and power posing, reminds us that confidence is not about believing you will succeed. It's about believing you'll be okay if you don't. So let's look at some tools for shifting into self-assurance. Here are 3 powerful practices that will help rewire self-doubt. Let's start with the first. Catch and reframe negative self-talk. Pay attention to the inner critic's voice. I don't know enough becomes I'm learning and I have valuable insight to share. I'm not qualified becomes I bring unique experience and perspective. When you hear yourself minimizing your accomplishments, pause and ask, would I say this to someone I admire? If not, reframe it as if you were encouraging them. Second is use evidence to challenge doubt. Self-doubt thrives in vague assumptions. Replace I'm not good at this with concrete data. Keep a confidence file. Save thank you emails, positive feedback, and moments where you made an impact. Start an accomplishment log. Write down weekly wins, no matter how small. Reflect on past challenges you've already overcome. These tools give your brain real evidence to counteract the imposter narrative. Finally, practice self-compassion over perfectionism. Dr. Kristen Neff's research shows that self-compassion, not harsh self-criticism, is a key driver of resilience and motivation. Try saying, "It's okay to be learning. This is hard, and I'm doing my best. Growth is uncomfortable. That doesn't mean I'm failing." Self-assurance isn't about pretending you have all the answers. It's about trusting that you're capable of finding your way through uncertainty. When you shift your relationship with doubt, you don't just become more confident, you become more courageous. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, and like a muscle, the more you intentionally use it, the stronger it gets. In this section, we'll explore both internal strategies and external behaviors that reinforce your presence and self-belief, even when you don't feel 100% confident yet. So let's start with internal strategies. These are tools that help rewire your mindset and create a more empowering internal narrative. The first is visualization. Before a high-stakes meeting or presentation, take 2 to 3 minutes to visualize yourself succeeding. Picture your posture, your tone, your words. Feel the sense of calm and clarity. Athletes and executives alike use visualization because it helps the brain rehearse success. Second, power affirmations. Create a list of statements that reinforce your strength and leadership. I am capable and prepared. I can do hard things. My voice and perspective matter. Use these before challenging conversations or decisions, or as a part of your daily routine. And third, there's the 5% rule. You don't need to overhaul everything. Instead, focus on one action that boosts confidence by just 5%. Speak up 1 sentence earlier in meetings. Apply for that opportunity, even if you don't feel ready. Ask one bold question this week. Small actions compound, and you build confidence through action, not waiting. Confidence isn't just what you think. It's also how you carry yourself. Others read your nonverbal cues, tone, and body language long before you speak. So first, with your body language, use grounded posture, feet planted, shoulders back, chest open. Avoid shrinking or folding your arms. Take up space with calm intention. Smile or maintain neutral facial expressions to signal warmth and self-assurance. We can use Amy Cuddy's power posing. Spend 2 minutes in a power pose before a high-pressure situation. Hands on hips, feet wide, chin up. This posture not only changes how others perceive you, it shifts your own hormone levels and reduces stress. And third, vocal tone and language. Speak in complete statements. Avoid trailing off or ending with an upward inflection, which sounds like a question. Replace hedging words like just, kind of, sorry, but with clear, direct language. Instead of I just think, say I believe. Instead of sorry, but can I add, say I'd like to add something here. Dress for confidence. Wear something that aligns with your leadership identity, not someone else's idea of it. Confidence often follows when we feel aligned internally and externally. Confidence isn't about pretending, it's about practicing. And the more you practice showing up as the leader you already are, the more naturally confident you will be. Now it's time for our Female Leader Spotlight with Kelley Schmidt. She's the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Durango, Colorado. Kelley Schmidt brings a powerful voice to this conversation, not because she claims to have all the answers, but because she's willing to say what many women feel and rarely express. She said to me, "Imposter syndrome, it's inevitable, and I think it's okay to be there because it keeps you alert and aware. Don't be afraid of it. Just acknowledge that we're all human." As the Parks and Recreation Director, Kelley leads a team of over 350 staff. Her leadership journey has been built on risk-taking, self-advocacy, and a refusal to wait for permission. She's held several director roles in Texas and Colorado and notes a major cultural shift in her industry, Parks and Recreation because it's no longer male dominated. She says, it used to be mostly men. Now it feels 50-50. And we need to celebrate that shift, she reflected. But despite the progress, Kelley doesn't sugarcoat the continued challenges. She's still occasionally talked over in meetings. She's still seen as too kind or too soft. And she's had to prove her credibility more than once to her older male peers in the community. Her solution? Consistency, kindness, and authenticity. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You just have to be real. And people can see through if you're not. Kelley also spoke candidly about her approach to mentoring others. She encourages emerging leaders not to get stuck on titles. She believes employers can support development, but it's up to individuals to drive their own growth. She looks for quiet sparks in her team, those who may not speak up but still show signs of leadership waiting to be nurtured. Perhaps one of the most compelling moments from Kelley's interview was her description of showing vulnerability with her team. She says some days you're crushing it and other days you're not, and that's okay. Leadership isn't about being perfect, it's about showing up anyway and knowing you can't do it alone. Her story is a reminder that imposter feelings don't disqualify you, they humanize you. And by modeling courage, compassion, and clarity, Kelley Schmidt exemplifies what it means to lead from strength even when doubt shows up. Yeah. How do you stay confident as a leader and not allow either imposter syndrome or anything creep in?
I think imposter syndrome, it's inevitable. And I think it's okay to be there because it keeps you alert. It keeps you aware. Don't be afraid of it. Just say, we're all human, right? We're all imperfect beings. We're going to make mistakes. We need to lean in and lean on the professionals that we surround ourselves with on our teams. So it happens every day. And if someone tells you it doesn't, that's just not true. Of course, in some facet, whether it's as a parent or as a friend or as you're just like, am I holding the bar? Am I living up to the bar I set for my team and for myself? Some days you are, and some days you're crushing it, and other days you're just not. And I think showing that vulnerability to your team is so important. It's so important. You're not infallible. You're not perfect. You're just trying to do the best that you can. And you certainly can't do it alone, right? We all need those around us to really be successful. I truly believe that.
You've just heard Kelley's story, a story of real leadership, not defined by titles or perfection, but by presence, kindness, and authenticity. She reminds us that imposter syndrome isn't something you outgrow. It's something you learn to move with. And that confidence isn't about being loud, it's about being real. As you think about this and Kelley's words, I want to invite you to pause for a moment of reflection. What parallels do you see with your own experience? Have you ever questioned your place in the room, even when you were more qualified to be there? Have you led from behind the scenes while carrying silent doubts that nobody else could see? Well, you're not alone. Take a few moments now. Jot down what's coming up for you. Because sometimes the most powerful shift starts with simply naming what's true. What parallels do you see with your own experience? Now it's time to zoom out for a minute and broaden our lens. Let's look at the research by Dr. Kevin Coakley. When we examine imposter syndrome through a wider lens, we see it's not just an individual struggle. It's a reflection of our workplace culture, leadership dynamics, and the environments we create for each other. Now, with his research on imposter phenomenon among high-achieving individuals, it revealed that feelings often stem not from personal inadequacy, but from cultural, racial, and social dynamics, especially in environments where representation is limited. His study shows us that imposter feelings are strongly correlated with anxiety and psychological distress. People from underrepresented groups are more vulnerable to imposter thoughts, even when highly accomplished. These feelings often come from external signals, not internal truth. Coakley's work reminds us that imposter syndrome isn't about capability, it's about context. And healing imposter syndrome isn't just about affirmations, it's about creating cultures of belonging. Now for our first male ally leadership highlight. This is Adam Grant. He's an organizational psychologist, and he's reframed how we think about self-doubt. He argues that self-doubt becomes a strength when it fuels reflection rather than resistance. Grant encourages leaders to be transparent about their own uncertainty or past failures. We can foster psychological safety because where people are free to ask questions, challenge ideas, and share without fear, they thrive. So support voices that may be hesitant to speak up, not because they lack value, but because they fear they'll be dismissed. His work invites all leaders to see confidence not as arrogance, but as grounded self-trust, and to recognize that everyone, even the most successful, wrestle with self-doubt. Now it's time for another amazing male ally leader spotlight, and that is on Rob Johnson. He's our friend, city manager, city of San Jacinto, California. And we had some fun in our video interview. Rob shared with me, I'm an imposter, and I think we all are to some extent. As a city manager leading a large and complex organization, Rob's honesty is really a powerful example of vulnerable leadership. He challenges the idea that confidence means always knowing the answers. Instead, he emphasizes the importance of staying curious and open to learning. He believes that we need to surround ourselves with people who know what we don't. We need to lead from humility, not ego. And Rob's transparency models a healthier, more human kind of leadership. One that helps others feel seen, safe, and empowered to lead, even in the midst of doubt. And speaking with some of the females that are in his city, they mirror these same sentiments, how he is creating this safe environment where they feel empowered and that they don't have to have all the answers. So together, these perspectives remind us that imposter syndrome isn't a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're growing. And with the right support, culture, and self-awareness, we can all move forward, even when we don't feel 100% ready.
I'm an imposter right now. I have an unbelievable professional staff. So I can't know every single issue and every single thing and have an answer to every problem that the city faces. That's why we have professional staff, right? So I don't pretend when someone asks me a question that I have the answer. And I expect when I ask a question that my professional staff doesn't have the answer to, that they're not going to lie to me.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're an imposter because they don't have the answer. But I don't have the time, energy, and effort to get that answer. I need the answer. But you know what? They don't have the answer. So who else needs the answer?
It's time for our global perspective of confidence and imposter syndrome across cultures. When we look at confidence, high versus low power distance cultures, we can see a sharp contrast. Imposter syndrome may be universal, but how it's experienced, expressed, and addressed varies widely across cultural contexts. So in cultures with high power distance, such as India, South Korea, Japan, and many Latin American countries, hierarchy, formality, and deference to authority are more strongly emphasized. This can have a direct impact on how imposter syndrome shows up, particularly for women. Speaking up in front of elders or superiors may be seen as inappropriate or disrespectful, even when one is qualified. Confidence may be interpreted as arrogance, especially for women, creating pressure to appear modest or differential. And then self-doubt may not be openly acknowledged due to cultural norms around saving face. In these settings, women leaders may experience imposter feelings, but feel unable to name it or process that, leading to internalized stress and perfectionism. In contrast, low power distance cultures such as the United States, the Netherlands, and Scandinavian countries tend to value individual expression and egalitarian leadership. While imposter syndrome still exists, there may be more opportunity for open dialogue around mindset, vulnerability, and psychological safety in the workplace. When we look at collectivist cultures, for example, much of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, success is often viewed through a community lens. Leaders may downplay individual achievements to avoid appearing boastful or self-centered. This can reinforce imposter thoughts like, I didn't do this alone, so I shouldn't take the credit. If I stand out too much, I'll draw unwanted attention. Whereas in individualist cultures, such as the US, Australia, the UK, there's more emphasis on self-promotion and personal branding. This can create a different kind of pressure to always appear confident and in control, even when feeling uncertain. So now there's an opportunity for a global call to reframe confidence. In every region of the world, women are redefining what it means to lead. And that includes how confidence looks and sounds. What's considered confident in one culture might be seen as inappropriate in another. And what's viewed as humble might mask self-doubt that goes unspoken. That's why this work isn't just personal, it's global. When we talk about imposter syndrome and confidence with a cross-cultural lens, we invite new conversations, new awareness, and more inclusive leadership at every level. Imposter syndrome thrives in silence, but when we name it, examine it, and share it, we take away its power. You've learned that confidence isn't something you have or don't have. It's something you practice. It's built on repetition, reflection, and small moments of courage. And most importantly, it's not about pretending to be perfect. It's about showing up as you. Let's revisit the reflection prompt that we began with today. When have you second-guessed your abilities? How can you reframe that experience now? Maybe what you once saw as a sign of inadequacy was actually a sign that you were stretching into growth. Maybe that doubt wasn't a red flag after all, but a green light. Let's look at our next steps because confidence isn't built in isolation, it's built in motion. So as we close this session, choose one of the following actions to reinforce what you've learned. You can try identifying one recurring self-doubt thought. You'll write a new and empowering narrative to replace it. So if you're saying something like, I don't belong here, this will become, I've earned my seat and I'm still growing. Or maybe you're going to try one of our confidence building strategies this week. Maybe a power pose, even if you feel totally silly doing it. Or affirmations or visualization. Or maybe you're going to speak up 5% more. Practice showing up even when it feels uncomfortable or silly. Or you could try supporting someone else. Share one thing that you've learned today with a colleague, a team member, or a mentee. Confidence grows fastest when we help others rise too. So what did we learn in today's lesson? First, imposter syndrome isn't a flaw. It's a common experience, especially among high-achieving women. And it stems from internalized doubt, not actual lack of ability. And it often shows up in moments of growth and visibility. Second, there are multiple expressions of imposter syndrome. We looked at the 5 types: perfectionist, expert, soloist, natural genius, and superhuman. This helps us recognize how self-doubt manifests in our behavior and our expectations. Third, confidence isn't about being fearless or flawless. It's about being grounded in your own value and when doubt is present. Sustainable confidence is built on purpose, not performance. Fourth, reframe your inner narrative is going to be essential. Moving from "I'm not ready" to "I'm growing into this" transforms hesitation into momentum. And fifth, real leaders like Kelley Schmidt experience imposter moments too. What sets these people apart is their willingness to acknowledge it, name it, lead anyway, and lift others up in the process. You don't have to wait to feel confident to act with confidence. Confidence is a practice built through small steps, authentic presence, and community support. Remember, you don't have to feel 100% ready to be ready. You just have to be willing to take the next step, doubt and all. Because you don't have to fake it to lead, you just have to show up fully as yourself. Imposter syndrome doesn't mean you're unqualified, it means you're human. And confidence isn't about eliminating doubt, it's about learning to lead alongside it. Today, we've explored how imposter syndrome shows up, why it affects so many women leaders, and the tools you can use to shift from self-doubt to self-assurance. You don't have to wait until you feel confident to act like a leader. Showing up, even when it feels hard, is leadership. I want to thank you for joining us for this training on confidence and overcoming imposter syndrome. Remember, you're not alone in navigating doubt, and you don't have to wait until you feel confident to lead with confidence. Every courageous step that you take reinforces that you belong exactly where you are. And to support you in putting today's insights into action, be sure to download your free Confidence Toolkit Starter Guide. This is a practical resource to help you shift from self-doubt to self-assurance. You can find it on my website at drjolenechurch.com/action. I'd also like to encourage you and invite you to join the Women's Leadership Support Network on LinkedIn. This is a place where you can connect, reflect, and grow with other mission-driven women. Share your takeaways or favorite insight from today's session. We'd love to hear what resonated with you. And our next session, training number 6, is going to be on executive presence, owning the room. We're going to explore how to lead with clarity and credibility and connection so that people listen before you speak and remember you long after you've left the room. Until then, keep showing up even when it's uncomfortable. You don't have to silence your doubt to lead.